Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughn Manor. And today, it's my epic Comic Book Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I talk about a Marvel epic collection, and Steve Donoghue on his channel talks about that same Marvel epic collection. It is our world's finest team up, which we do once a week. And this is actually the last week where we're going to be doing Marvel epic collections. Next week, we're going to be starting a series of videos where we talk about DC Comics. Going to start talking DC. We've been wanting to talk about DC for a while. I have, and he has. DC, I think, is Steve Donoghue's favorite. So we're going to be moving on to DC Comics next week. And we're going to be doing that till we get bored of doing DC Comics. And then we'll undoubtedly probably go back to Epic Collections again because I have too many Epic Collections not to talk about them. So yeah, but next week, DC. But this week, the Marvel Epic Collection that we are going to be talking about is an awful good one. It's this one. It's the X-Men. And this is the X-Men Second Genesis. This is the X-Men Marvel Epic Collection, Volume 5. Has the X-Men issues, Giant Size X-Men number 1, X-Men number 94 through 110. It also has a couple issues of Iron Fist in here that John Byrne drew. Iron Fist number 14 and 15, and Marvel Team Up number 53, 69 through 70, and Annual number 1. So there's a lot of Marvel Team Up in here as well. So yeah, this is X-Men from 1975 to 1978. This was the X-Men we are more familiar with. This is the reimagining of the X-Men. The reimagining that Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum did. So it's their version of the X-Men, and man, was I happy to get to this. You might know, you might not, but a few months ago, when I did my read every book by challenge, that I did, and I got Stephen King on that. I also did another challenge, which was read every issue of, where I vowed to read every issue of a comic book. And the comic book that won was the X-Men. So I've been reading a lot of X-Men. It's taken me a while, actually. I've been pretty busy, but I've read 5 epic collections worth of X-Men since then. And so I've been going through the classic team, the old team that was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, the Silver Age X-Men. And that has been rough going, I have to admit. I did expect the Silver Age X-Men to be better than it was. It was not great most of the time, the Silver Age X-Men. And so I haven't talked about those epic collections that I read. I did talk about the first one and the second one. I made Steve Donoghue suffer through the second X-Men Epic Collection, but I couldn't make him suffer through the third and the fourth one. That would be too cruel. So I waited to get back to the X-Men until I got to this one, and this one was fantastic. I've read all of these stories before, but it was fun reading them again. Particularly now that I knew the X-Men's history a lot better than I did, and I could appreciate more the work that Claremont and Cockrum did when they revived the X-Men. At the end of the Silver Age series, Marvel Comics did a strange thing. Instead of just canceling the X-Men comic book because of poor sales, it wasn't selling that great. They just stopped putting new material in it and just started reprinting old stories, but they kept the comic book going. That was odd to me. It's still odd to me. You would think that they would just create a different comic book, but they didn't. I guess there was some commercial reason for that. I guess it made a certain amount of money, even if it was just reprints. Who knows? I don't. But eventually, they came back with this new team. And so at the beginning of this, it starts off in Giant Size X-Men number 1, which has kind of become a legendary issue now. There are all the X-Men that we are very familiar with. And Dave Cockrum, I have to hand it to him. He did some great character designs and some fantastic artwork in this epic collection in these issues. There we go. There are all our friends there, and there we have the older team up there above, the Silver Age team. Now there are a few X-Men that left the team fairly quickly, but a lot of these X-Men stayed with it for a while. And of course, we've got Wolverine, my favorite X-Men, probably a lot of people's favorite X-Men. This issue starts off with Nightcrawler with some, like I said, the artwork is really good in this. And Professor X finds Nightcrawler, and then Professor X finds Wolverine, the awesome Wolverine, who kind of reluctantly joins the team. Now he's getting together all of these mutants to form a new team because the old team has gone missing, and he figures they need to be rescued from whatever trouble they've gotten themselves into. So he's putting together this new team, and Wolverine is really awesome right from the start. Now there is a small, short little period in this epic collection where Wolverine starts wearing a ridiculous outfit, but he doesn't wear it long. He gets back to his cool original outfit real soon. So we've got Colossus there. We got all our characters coming together, and there they all are. And this is where they find out that they've got to go find the original X-Men. One original X-Men is still here, and that would be Scott Summers, the Cyclops. Scott Summers is actually, or was actually, one of the more popular members of the X-Men. He's probably the most popular X-Men, actually. And so they kept Scott Summers on the team. You know, I guess he was just too broody and sulky to let go. Had to have their broody, sulky leader. One thing I can say about Cyclops is that, you know, he's pretty consistent through both the Silver and Bronze Age in as far as his character is concerned. Always broody, always sulky, always kind of grumpy. That's how we love our Cyclops. And he tells a tale of what happens to the original X-Men. So they go off, this new team, to find the original X-Men. And they end up on this very strange Lovecrafty type island and fight this gigantic monster. You know, anytime you fight a gigantic monster and the artwork's good, I'm all for it. And we get a pretty good fight with this monster. There's Storm there. Really cool stuff. This was a great beginning, I thought. Excellent beginning for this series of new X-Men adventures. Now, before they became the Uncanny X-Men, as you can see up here, they were the all-new, all-different X-Men, and they were for a while. Pretty cool cover there, with Count Nefaria being nefarious as usual. So this was actually a pretty good issue. It only took them 94 issues to get a good issue in for the X-Men. Excellent artwork. Now these stories, they're really a success. This series was a tremendous success. Not just for the artwork, of course, but Chris Claremont, he writes very character-driven stories. Lots of action in these stories, of course. It is a Marvel comic book. But he spends a lot of time on the characters. He puts a lot of effort into the characters. So while the art is cool and there's lots of action-y type things happening, it's the stories of the characters. It's their stories that make this interesting. It's their conflicts. It's their struggles. It's what's going on with them that make this, that make these stories interesting. And there's some really cool stuff in these early issues. There we go. Cool relationships. The characters have great interplay with each other. Just really solid, good stuff. The Sentinels come back. So we get a fresh look at some old villains. The Sentinels were pretty good villains when they showed up the first time. So it was pretty cool to see them come back. Just some really cool stuff. Even the Banshee looks cool, and that's tough to do. He's not my favorite, that one. Got a cool double page spread here. Now this Epic Collection has to be said, because it's a thick paperback, we do get some information loss in the gutter there for these double page spreads. This one's not too bad, but you do lose some stuff in the middle there. Not so much in the omnibus version, which I no longer have. And of course, this Epic Collection has the Phoenix. Marvel Girl becomes the Phoenix, thank goodness. This is a much more awesome character, the Phoenix. Really nice character design. And boy, does she have an entrance. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Of course, we all know what happens to the Phoenix. At least most of us do. I won't spoil it for you if you want to read along with the X-Men. And if you do want to read the X-Men, I would make this recommendation. This is my recommendation to you. If you want to read the X-Men, get the first Epic Collection, just so you get the origin and you get a taste of how some of those original stories were, and then just go right to this. This is the proper starting point, I think, if you're an X-Men fan. These stories right here, because these are great and they only get better from here, at least for a while. The stories in the Epic Collections following this are really, really good, but this one is really, really good as well. Fantastic art. Of course, Magneto returns, and I have to say, the evil villain Magneto becomes a more interesting villain from this point. In the Silver Age stuff, he was pretty much a one-note kind of villain. He was almost a Doctor Doom knockoff. I mean, not exactly, but he was that kind of villain. You know, just wants to take over the world, hates humans. Just a really not very interesting villain. But he becomes really interesting from this point forward. Dave Cockrum, man, look at that. Look at that. Look how great that is. Such great stuff in this comic book. Just really a tremendous success. Now, eventually, John Byrne takes over the artwork. Now, John Byrne, he is a great artist. Unfortunately, this is also where Wolverine starts wearing his ridiculous suit for a little while. Don't worry, it doesn't last. It's just so dumb. But the artwork itself is really, really good. John Byrne does a really great job. He's just such a good artist. I have some troubles with his writing. He eventually wrote some stuff as well, which I don't think was always the best. But his art, it's just really interesting. And we got those Iron Fist stories in here too. Iron Fist was a pretty good comic book most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. And of course, here we've got Wolverine in his ridiculous outfit. Such an embarrassment. Fortunately, it did not last. Fortunately. There's Storm. Storm is frequently naked, but fortunately her hair is always in the right place. It just, you know, that's just the way it works out. See, there's Wolverine getting back in his good duds. Way to go, Wolverine. Such a great character, Wolverine. And he just gets really interesting. It's fun to see the early Wolverine and what kind of stayed the same and what kind of changed with the character. Now we do, at the end of this, get a bunch of Marvel team-up stories where it has the X-Men and other in this other book. Now these stories look like they're illustrated by Sal Buscema. I was always annoyed whenever I get a comic book and Sal Buscema drew it. When I was a kid, it's like, oh my goodness, Sal Buscema again? Sal Buscema is, you know, he was actually a really good inker. I have to hand it to him. And inking is actually the thing that Sal Buscema likes to do. He said that himself. And he's really good at it. He was good on Conan. He was good inking a lot of things. His pencils are always just okay. You know what I mean? They're serviceable pencils. They're not terrible. They're not great. He drew really, 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 really fast, Sal Buscema. And it shows. But I think that's one of the reasons that Marvel used him over and over and over again, just because he was so fast. And, you know, for a guy who wrote as fast, or who drew as fast as he did, you know, he was decent. Just nothing great. And then we get guest appearance by the Hulk in here. An early John Byrne Hulk. And it actually looks pretty cool. Pretty cool in here. So we get some interesting stuff. I wish... here's the thing with the Epic collections. The Epic collections are very complete. So so anytime the X-Men would show up in a major way in anything, they're going to put it in here. Which means you have fewer X-Men issues and a lot of other issues like Marvel Team Up. And the Marvel Team-Ups are not going to be as good as the original X-Men stories. But whatever, you get it all. And you get it all eventually. But I do like, actually, that the Epics are as complete as they are. That's kind of a good thing. There's also a lot of good extras at the back of this. There's an early Wolverine design by John Romita. You also get a lot of other stuff in the back. And one of the really interesting things in the back of this book is you get some early character designs by Cockrum. I believe some of these characters were originally developed... Steve Donoghue will know this. I'm only thinking I know this. But I think maybe that some of these characters were originally designed to be in the Legion of Superheroes at DC Comics. But let me know, Steve. I think that's how some of these were originally designed. Here we've got Typhoon. Typhoon's powers were eventually turned into Storm's powers. So Typhoon didn't make it into the X-Men. A couple other characters that didn't make it in. And we've got the Black Cat. Yeah, this is the Black Cat that was eventually turned into Storm. She got Typhoon's powers, the Black Cat did, and stopped being the Black Cat. And she became Storm. So we just get some really interesting stuff at the end of this. It's pretty cool. And of course, we've got some original artwork here. Great stuff. This is an excellent Epic collection. I'm really happy with this. I was really happy to get to this. And I'm happy that this is the Epic collection that we're going to close out with on our Epic Comic Book Wednesdays. Like I said, for a while we do DC. And like I said, we will probably eventually get back to these. It just kind of depends how it goes. We'll see how long we do DC. And then we'll get back to these, I think. We'll see. But yeah, X-Men, Second Genesis. It's awesome. This is a fantastic book. Be sure to catch us next week when we talk about DC Comics. And be sure to catch me later on this week. There might be a day I miss this week because I've got other stuff I've got to do. But I should have at least a couple videos up this week. Yeah. I'm juggling everything around this week because it's going to be busy. So okay, guys. I will catch you here next time, here at Stately Von Manor.